Hello, welcome. My name is Michelle. This is my first video that I'm going to be posting to YouTube, so I apologize in advance if I stumble for words. I don't really have cue cards, just kind of doing it as I go along. But the reason behind me creating this video is I have overcome a lot of traumatic events in my life, and I wanted to share tools that I used personally that I felt enabled me to move on from bad patterns, breaking cycles. The most important thing is from narcissistic abuse. And I know there's a lot of really great videos on here. I've found videos that have given me wonderful tools on what to do with different stages that I am in my recovery from it, because I feel like it is a very long, ongoing recovery process from narcissistic abuse. So, I don't regret anything in my journey. I feel, I was pulled to try certain things at certain times. With where I was, with my sense of understanding. And I'll even go back and revisit thought processes that I've had along the way, and I will see them from a different light now that I'm at a higher understanding, or kind of like detachment from this toxic cycle that I was in for so long. I was with the man I wound up marrying for a total of 18 years. And I was very young when I met him. I was very inexperienced, didn't have many relationships before him, and the ones that I had, they were very long term because I came from a very unstable childhood. So looking back, can identify how I detached from, I attached to things that probably weren't healthy for me because I didn't know the difference. I didn't have the polarity or any good structure to really guide me. But I do have some notes here because I do tend to go on tangents when I talk about certain things. So I'm trying to just use this little template to kind of keep me guided here so we're on topic. But I felt very pulled to talk about just everyday strength. And it's so very important because when you try to heal from bad habits and bad cycles, it's really consistency that works the best. There are times where I'm in a wonderful state of mind and I feel so very powerful within myself and, my path. And, I'm just so confident in how I feel. And the very next day I can be completely different. And it's very discouraging to myself when that happens. And that's what we don't want to do. We don't want to discourage ourselves. We don't want to beat up ourselves because we're human, and everybody's healing differently. So the number one thing is to stay mentally focused and not beat yourself up or feel like you're falling behind or you're regressing. So a couple things that I thought were important, or maybe a good analogy to use, is I'm going to read to you what I wrote. It says, to get out of unhealthy or toxic situations is by our changed acceptance and behavior. And when I say that, I mean it in the sense that in order to break these habits, we have to change what we've accepted. And it doesn't mean that we beat ourselves up in that acceptance or that acknowledgement. It just means that we're aware of it, and we're aware that it's something that we weren't keen on being a part of, and now we're going to try to figure out how to break out of it. And then I get into kind of what I said. It says, we've knowingly and unknowingly accepted it for too long. It's now uneasy trenches, in a sense, carved out within our soul. Because when you're a victim of narcissistic abuse, it really tears away at your soul. It's a different type of pain, loneliness that we go through. And I'm not discrediting any other type of traumatic event, but narcissistic abuse is its own breed. I'm sure we can all agree on that. So then I put, we find these trenches when examining ourselves. And then I reflected on that saying where never fill your cup from another's cup and vice versa. And that's kind of where I think this kind of relates to what I'm trying to say is, you know, we're going to have these trenches within us that, you know, obviously we're trying to fill as we heal. And if you're not healing those trenches with yourself in a healthy way, it's very easy to unknowingly allow someone else to pour and fill up those trenches. And that's only a temporary satisfaction because it's not authentic, it's not yours. So that's kind of where I felt with that. We need to fill these trenches ourselves until they become solid. And I kind of would think of it as like building a sandcastle at the beach. You know, you can't just use the dry sand. It's not going to stay. You have to wet it and you have to pack it and you have to get it in. And then the sand starts to dry and you have to re-wet it again and you have to repack it again. And that's kind of the same concept with that. It's, you know, when you're healing, you don't just pack it once and it's a done deal and it's solid. You have to, it's an everyday process. You always have to work at it until it's a solid foundation. And then I put, this is an everyday job for me. I'm always packing that substance in my trenches. The only way to fill these are by being and remaining in a state of self-awareness and regulation. And that is so important because every day things will happen and people will throw you off your game, and it's just life. We can't control what happens around us. We can't control the people that we encounter. So we always have to stay grounded within ourselves and be aware with ourselves. One of the most important things that I think I encountered when I was trying to break free from this narcissistic cycle that I was stuck in. I knew I didn't want to be in it, but I just didn't know how to get out because I was in it for so long and there was just so much fear surrounding me and my every move, my friends. I didn't really want people to get involved because then I was afraid that they would somehow get roped into these manipulations, and he was just an evil person. I didn't want them to become victims of what I knew he was capable of doing. And I wrote this phrase down that is, it's a good one. Fear is the strongest when not vocalized. Expression of words allows fears to transmute. And that is so important because we tend to become very quiet, very sheltered. It's part of the isolation, the part of the manipulation that they do to us. And we wind up not talking about it. We just feel it. We feel it constantly. It runs through our head. And when we vocalize things, it makes it real. And it puts more substance to the feelings behind what we're experiencing at that moment. So it's very important to talk it out, which is another great reason why I'm creating these videos now. It helps me tremendously. And I can only hope and pray that it could help someone else as well. I also learned about this technique called the gray rock technique, and I know what it means for me. You know, I remember reflecting and saying like, I'm just a gray rock, you know, as these tactics would be happening, and you know, these tantrums that they tend to throw, and being like, well, I'm a gray rock. So for me, that gray rock method was a wonderful thing. But I really wanted to look up what the actual definition of it is, because I've tried explaining it to people, and because I felt it was so important. So in conversations with people that have experienced narcissistic abuse, I would tell them, you know, look up on the gray rock technique or the gray rock method. And so this is what I found as like the definition, I guess you would say, is that it's when an individual becomes emotionally non-responsive, and then I put acts like a rock, right? Because that's rocks that don't have an expression. Emotionally detachment and self-control is very critical in this state, because they'll have nothing to spin into drama. And if you're a victim of narcissistic abuse, you know very well what that phrase means. The less ingredients, I would look at it like that, the less ingredients you give this cook to work with, he can't stir the pot. There's nothing to stir. So, I got to a point where I completely just shut down. And of course, it's not a wonderful state to live in, but it's what I had to do for that moment. And I would just show no reaction. And as uncomfortable as it was, as fearful as it was, because I didn't know, now that I'm doing this, now what level is this gonna blow up to? So I don't want to keep this video on for too long. I know for myself, when I would watch videos, if they were too lengthy, it would just be too much for me at certain times. So I don't, I kind of want to be mindful of that as well. And I'm going to continue to create videos on other topics. And if there's anything that you feel like you want me to answer, feel free to leave a comment below. I will definitely get back to you. I appreciate you watching, and I hope that whether it's this video or another video that I am to post in the future, that I'm able to help people get out of an unhealthy situation like I was in, find that relatability within somebody, even finding strength in another can ignite it within ourselves. And I've lived that, I've experienced that. So I hope that the light that I've received from others, I can emit onto other people as well and help heal. Sending you love and light and all the strength in the world.